Okay, so this video I have two goals in mind. One, to use Git some more and show you how that works, and two, to show you how PHP handles arrays. So I'm going to work on the Git stuff right now. And just as a reminder, we're using GitLab instead of GitHub for our own reasons. And when we did a Python course, we used forks off from branches, but in this class we're using branches. Branches off from branches. I don't know if that doesn't make any sense. Anyways, so I just want to show you some more Git commands. So the difference between Git and GitLab is that GitLab is a web GUI interface to Git, but Git's the thing that really kind of hangs around on our server. Okay, so here's a nice command. We haven't seen this before. Git status just shows you where you're at. Everything's up to date, so that's nice. Origin master means, oh my aching brain. Apparently we're going to be starting this again. I need more RAM. That's what that's telling me. Origin means the Git repository that's on our GitLab server. So origin master, I'm on the master branch. All these branches have names. This is the master branch up on GitLab. So if I go up to GitLab and look at my class web page repository, well, this might take a second. I got to work on the speed of this GitLab server. Adjust some settings or something. Well, while we're waiting for that thing, let's there's another command, git branch, that you can use. There's lots of options with this branch. You got to be careful when you type these things, that you know well what you're doing. So you might want to write some notes down or pay attention to the internet. Git branch by itself will show you the branches that you have. I'm currently on the master branch, but I have two more branches. Okay, so here we go. So this is my class web page repository, and I can go and look at branches. And here I have the three branches, master, PDO arrays, and PHP arrays, and I have connected those to the branches on server. And as time goes on, more videos, I'll show you how I've done this. But for right now, these two are linked. The branch on my web server and the branch up here on GitLab. Now, so a couple more commands. Git status shows you where you're at. And we'll see as time goes along why that might be important. Git branch shows you some of the branches that you have available to you. And now I want to show you how I'm going to use this. So I said that what I want to do is show you how that PHP handles arrays. And there's going to be two videos basically on this because there's the underlying language PHP, and then there is a class PDO that's written in PHP that's used to connect to databases. And the way PDO handles arrays is, well, I mean, in the end they're PHP arrays, but there are some subtleties with PDO that we should be aware of. Okay, so now I want to take a look at my web page. So let's see. I'm going to hit refresh. All right, so this is where we left off, displaying an array of stuff that we pulled from the database. This was with a fetch. When we fetched one row, we got customer service, and this was a fetch all when we fetched all the rows. So this was from the last video, but I've made some changes and updates to my code since then to kind of improve on this. And one of the updates I made, I put in PHP arrays. So I'm going to do a list. And let's just remind ourselves, there's two files in here, style.css, which determines how the web page looks, and there's index.php. That is the file that's giving us this information, that index.php, right? Okay, so now I'm going to run a command, get checkout, and I'm going to use get checkout to switch to a different branch, and I want to get checkout php arrays. Now right now, remember there's get, which is on my local computer, or in this case this local server, and there's get lab, which exists up on the web, that other server. When I do get checkout like this, I am changing the branch locally. So I'm going to get checkout php arrays. Okay. List. Nothing's changed, right? Something has changed. So what's changed is I made changes to this file index.php. You couldn't see that because I didn't show you those files, but I can. Now here's another Linux command. You don't need to know this, but it'll be handy in this case. I'm going to cat, which just means to show. So I'm going to cat index.php. And just kind of take a look at that and sort of take a look at what it looks like. And let's go back to the master branch. And we'll cat that index.php again. So they're different. I want, oops. Boy. I want this one. They're also different up here on scget. So branches gives you a handy way to go back and forth between code. You really wouldn't necessarily do it this way. What you might do is you have sort of a main branch of code, you have a web page, it's all kind of up and nice, and then somebody says, hey, can you make a change? And so what you do is you say, sure, I'll make a change to the web page, but I don't want to destroy the web page I know is working. It's in production, people are looking at it, got lots of visitors. So you take a branch of that web page, do some work, make sure it works, make sure that your changes work, and then when you get your current branch working, you take the changes you've made and you merge them into the sort of main branch. I don't know if that makes sense or not. There's lots of ways to use get. I guess what you should really get out of this part right now is get status, get branch, and get checkout. In a future video, I'm going to show you how to actually make these branches. And we'll have some kind of a summary. All right, now let's go over PHP arrays. All right, so this code builds this web page. And it's pretty simple stuff. So this is just saying, hey, I got an HTML page, gives it a title, CSCI 205 lesson video, and so on. This starts the HTML. This starts the body of the web page. This is all header information. You need that header information so that when Apache is parsing this thing, it knows how to parse it. It knows how to reference the style sheet. And then in here, this is where we have our PHP script. Okay, so here's how you declare an array in PHP. Remember, in PHP, first of all, we begin with less than question mark PHP, end with question mark greater than. Variables start with a $sign, so array equals. To declare an array in PHP, you just say array, parentheses, and then here are the elements of my array, Jeff, 2, and S. And if you want to print that array to a web page, use print R. Remember, so echo is for printing text, and print R is for printing arrays. So I'm going to print R array. Echo, this is a new line break in HTML. So when you are doing outputs using PHP, either print R or echo, they actually go directly to a web page, so they should be in HTML. Print R formats this array in HTML. Echo, I'm going to echo out a break, and that gives us this. So notice how this is printed out. This is kind of important. In the array, all I have is values, but when this prints, you get to see that there's actually indices and values, or in Python, we call them keys. So index 0 is Jeff, index 1 is 2, and index 2 is S. And that's the order these are in the array. So arrays are ordered, and computer scientists count from 0, right? 0, 1, 2. Now, when you print this out, it doesn't look very nice, right? I mean, who wants to see that on their web page? So here's the next construct. Not only are we going to learn a little bit about arrays, but also a little bit about for loops. They kind of go together, oftentimes anyways. There are two versions of for loops in PHP. There is a for, and then the for each. The for each loop is really nice, pretty powerful. I'm going to show you that. I mean, if you get curious or need to know more about PHP, you can look up the for loop. So for each, parentheses, array. Oh, stop. This is the array. And then as. So this is going to break up the array as these three different values. So I'm going to loop over these three values, Jeff, 2, and S. But in PHP, you can say, I want the index and the value, and this is the notation. You don't have to use the word index here. I could use any variable name I want. It's got to start with a $sign. Any variable name I want here, it's got to start with a $sign. But you do want this notation with the equals greater sign. If you don't use this, if you just say, if I just said for each array 1 as value, $sign value, and I didn't put index here, all I'd get was the values. Again, it doesn't matter what word I used. In fact, if I just said for each array 1 as $sign index and didn't have the rest of this stuff, the indexes would actually go through the values. Without this, all you get the values. With this, with two variables here and this in between, then you get the index and value. So it's going to print out, well, I call them keys here and indices here. That's a bit inconsistent, right? Print out the index, print out the word key, print out the index or the key, print out the word value, print out value, print out a new line. Well, I say print. This is really in HTML, right? Echo. All right, so here we go. Key 0, value Jeff. That's this one. Key 1, value 2. Key 1, value 2. Key 2, value. Oh my. Shut up. Maybe that'll shut it up. I don't know. All right. I love Microsoft. Now, in PHP, it's the same command. PHP kind of treats arrays and dictionaries as the same thing. They call them associative arrays. So I'm going to declare an array now, but in this case, if you don't specify the keys in the array, then they're automatically integers, 0, 1, 2, 3. So you should be familiar with that from Python, this idea of an array indexed by integers. But you can specify the keys. So I can specify this key is going to be first, and then I use the same notation I did in the for loop, right? With the equals greater than sign, Jeff. So the values here are the same as they are in this array. The values are Jeff, 2, and S, same as up here. But I'm specifying now the keys or the indices to be strings, first, second, third. I can use the same for loop as I did up here, for each associative. So I don't need to know that these indices are integers or not. That's the value or why I really like this for loop. For each associative as index, value, and I'm going to echo as I did above, the key, the index, the value, and the value. And in this case, we get first, second, third, Jeff 2S. All right, so what should you take out of this? In PHP, to specify an array, it's array with parentheses. Remember, all commands end with semicolons. You can specify an array that's indexed by integer starting at 0, or as associative arrays. If you want to loop over those arrays, I think the cleanest way to do it is to use a for each command. Remember, when you do a for each command, unlike Python, where in Python, if I indent these over by 4, then Python knows these commands are inside the for each. In PHP, it actually doesn't matter. I could put these anywhere I want in the line. I could put them all the way over to the left if I wanted. What tells PHP that these two commands are inside the for each is the braces. So I have a start brace here, and everything in between that start brace and this end brace is inside the for each. So I print out the key and the value and then a new line for each one. That's why we get a new line after each one of these, because that break is inside the for loop. Okay, so hopefully that helps give you a little bit better understanding of how arrays in PHP work. The get thing, the get is going to take a while to understand. It's a bit of a pain, I have to confess, but once you get used to using get, you can do some really cool stuff with it. I use it a lot now. The more comfortable I get with it, get with get, the more I use it. It's a great tool. If you reach a certain point where you say, hey, you know what, this is working, but I want to keep making changes, you can just put a branch in there, or there's other things you can do to say, hey, here's a stopping point that I might need to come back to. So anyways, all right, on to the next video.